I don't know when I last went out of the house. Only joking, I went out this morning to get Mortal Realms magazine. Just for you. Well, and me. How you doing, guys? Big Mac Dance School here again today, back once again with another episode of my Mortal Realms series for you. It's issue 13. Wow, these are flying by, even though this issue came 2 weeks after the previous issue, and the next issue, issue 14, is going to be 2 weeks after this as well. So you'll notice last week's video wasn't a full magazine review, it's just a review of the pullout that we got in a previous issue. Before we actually get on to what we're getting in this issue though, I just want to say a massive thank you to Mr. D Fawkes for sponsoring me on Patreon. He's sponsoring this video. So Patreon, if you don't know already, I've been banging on about it in my previous week's videos. I'll pop a link in the description below, and there's a few more details there. But you can pledge money towards my channel, and yeah, it helps me pay for things like Mortal Realms magazine and pay for better lighting setup, better sound setup, things like that in the future. But the funds at the minute are going pretty much solely into Mortal Realms magazine. But right, what do we get in this issue? Massive thank you to D Fawkes again. But what we get in this issue is some Abaddon black paint, some Mechanica standard grey paint, and a medium dry brush. Now, if you buy that all from Games Workshop separately, that's £9.45p. So it's not like we're losing any money on this issue, but it's one of the lower value issues we've had so far. Yeah, so it's still okay value though. We're making a little bit of saving, but if you were to buy it from third parties, you could probably find the stuff cheaper. We also discover the Forces of Order, paint our Sigmarite Mausoleum, and new rules to play through. So yeah, let's crack on to the first page. Onto the first page, we get Forces of Order. In the eternal battle, Forces of Order will always stand against the darkness of chaos. Factions of Order were once united in a strong alliance, but the weakness of men, Duardin and elves, allowed chaos to corrupt them and break their bond. Now Sigmar has returned to reclaim the realms. Order is once again united. The forces are coming together to form alliances to banish chaos from the mortal realms. Stormcast are the most well-known army of Order, but there are many more races that have factions split within them that provide forces for the armies of Order. So there's the Duardin, which are like dwarves basically, fantasy dwarves. The Duardin split into Fire Slayers and Caradron Overlords. There's also the Dispossessed, but the Fire Slayers are like what used to be Slayers. They used to go out hunting giant creatures and stuff, but now there's entire clans of them. I wouldn't know the correct words for it yet, but yeah, now there's like entire warbands of them. And the Caradron Overlords are like miners, but they mine, instead of gold and jewels from the ground, they mine this thing called ether gold from the skies, from the clouds. So it's yeah, I don't really know much about it yet, but I'm sure we'll learn more going forward in the coming issues. The thing about the Duardin races though, they require payment for their services, so they don't just do it willingly out of the goodness of their own heart. They're, you know, after a little bit of payback. And then the elves, they have the Daughters of Cain and the Deepkin. Now the Daughters of Cain, Cain is like the Eldar god of war, and in 40k, Kalementia Cain is the Eldar god of war. Kalementia Cain is the Eldar god of war. The Elven god of war is Cain, and the Daughters of Cain worship Cain basically. And a lot of their race has mutated into, or by magical means possibly, I'm not too sure, but mutated to develop different bodies. Like, so some of them have wings, some of them have snake bodies, things like that. And the Adoneth Deepkin are like elves that live underwater. So they've got like gills and stuff. They've got no hair, I think. They've got really distinct elven features, but like really distinct and exaggerated. And then there's the Sylvaneth, which are like tree folk. The forest folk, they basically the defenders of nature itself, and they fought alongside the Stormcast or Storm hosts in against the forces of Nurgle, the Chaos God Nurgle. Nurgle's a god of corruption, god of plague, god of decay, and they fought against those forces. They fought alongside the Stormcasts against the forces of Chaos in the Realm of Light to try and protect their lands, basically. And then there's the Seraphon. The Seraphon sort of live high above Azir. They live high above Azir, and they're kind of mysterious. We don't know an awful lot about them. In the old world, they were the lizard men, so they're like lizard-like creatures, beings. And now they're like, they live in the stars almost. They'll fight with anyone though that wants to battle the Dark Gods, the Chaos Gods. So they want to try and banish Chaos altogether if they can. And then the cities of Sigmar are populated by all races, so elves, Dwarden, maybe the occasional lizard man and stuff, but not too sure about that. But they maintain armies of the various races within the population. They maintain armies and send them out to war when they need to. On to the next page, we get Illicit of Blight, which is a short story. It's a fun little short story. It's a battle in a snowy woodland between allied forces of Order and followers of the plague god of Nurgle. The allied forces of Order are those that are mentioned on the previous page, the Sylvaneth and Stormcast, basically fighting together to try and rid a certain area of woodland, try and rid that land of the followers of Nurgle, and because when Nurgle comes to a land, he corrupts it with his own plagues and blights and stuff like that. So that's why they want Nurgle out of there ASAP. On to the next page, we get Nighthorn: Rise of the Wraiths, Part 1. Ooh, it's going to be exciting to learn more in future issues, of course. But this issue tells us that during the Necroquake of Shaiish, the Nighthorn were unleashed on the mortal realms. It was an act of chance, really. It happened by accident, and so the ghostly forces that had no direction when they came to all of the mortal realms all at once, had no direction. It just sort of terrorised and shocked the locals that lived in the various realms that they all of a sudden appeared in. They often took mortal forces to the brink of destruction, to the brink of defeat, but they never quite finished the job. They became distracted and moved on to terrorise other nearby mortals and civilians and stuff. So there's examples where they're taking on storm hosts of Stormcasts. They're taking them on, they've nearly defeated them, and then they see civilians running in fear, so they go and terrorise the civilians instead. But then the storm hosts rally and get reinforced and manage to win the day eventually. But Nagash, nonetheless, was very impressed by the forces of the Nighthorns, but he knew that with a bit of direction and a bit of manipulation, they could be a very useful force. And basically what he spotted was that they needed a leader, and that's as much information as he gives us on these pages. So part 2 can't come soon enough for my liking. I want to learn more about who that leader was and so on and so forth. Then on to the next page, we get a how to paint section. It's how to paint Sigmarite Mausoleum. It's a nice little paint job at the end of it. It's there's a picture up on the screen behind me, but it's really simple techniques, and it's just picked out the detail on the mausoleum and on the fences and stuff that I think just add a little bit of narrative flair to your tabletop. Now there's plenty more left to do on this paint job, but it's a really simple couple of steps that you can take, so you're not playing with grey plastic all the time. You just takes it to that next little level. But yeah, like I said, there's plenty more still to do on it. But the steps are as simple as this. The buildings are painted in Mechanica Standard Grey, and then there's dry brush of Corax White over it. It's a really nice stony look. And then the fences have got Abaddon Black base coat, and then dry brush of Cantor Blue. Now you may think, what? Dry brushing with blue if you're new to painting, but dry brushing a black with blue or with a particular colour rather than just with grey or with white, I think it can really give you those sharp edges, and it looks kind of almost reflective with a dry brush of blue, and like a really hard surface. If you either edge highlight or dry brush with a little bit of blue, then it can give you that hard sort of look I find anyway. Yeah, there's plenty more to do, like I said, but that's great for now, to just place on the battlefield and battle around that terrain. It's fantastic. And then onto the playthrough, we've got Geist at the gates. The Nighthunts have discovered an item that they seek. Remember from last week's, or the week before's issue, from one issue ago anyway, issue 12, they were searching for this this item, and then they found it in a storm vault, and so they've located it now, and the Stormcasts are basically standing in their way to try and... I think there's Nighthunts about, there's noises going on. The Stormcasts are barring their path basically to try and defend this item and make sure the Nighthunts don't get it. The first 2 pages refresh the rules and introduce true line of sight, so a few little ideas and rules being introduced to us as we go through the issues, which is what we expect really. And on page 3 we get updated war scrolls and an extra rule, the extra rule is look out sir, which means basically you subtract 1 from hit rolls that target a hero within 3 inches of an enemy unit with more than 3 models. And there's a little that doesn't, when I read that, it didn't sound very clear to me. It seemed like you were subtracting 1 from hit rolls against heroes, and that to me immediately made me think of my heroes, not my opponent's heroes. But what it is, if you're targeting an enemy hero, you subtract 1 from hit rolls if that enemy hero is within 3 inches of an enemy unit. So of a unit on its side, then you subtract 1 from hit rolls, as long as that unit has more than 3 or more models. And then on to page 5 we've got retreat as well, which is a new rule to us. I think it may have been in the last issue, but I can't remember for sure. Retreat is just a move that takes you out of combat basically. If you're outnumbered, vastly outnumbered in combat, or if you're facing a particularly tough enemy and you think your unit's going to take a lot of damage, what you might want to do is retreat from that combat. And to do so, it's just you make a move basically. So you move the number of inches indicated on your war scroll that unit can move. You can also run out of combat as well. So a run roll is you roll a dice, then you add the total of that dice. Let's say you get a 5, you add it to your movement distance, which might be 6, and then you get a total move of 11, so you can retreat 11 inches there. And then on to the next page, which is the final page, the final page is coming to Mortal Realms in 2 weeks' time, remember. So we're not getting one next week because of the world situation at the moment, but in 2 weeks' time we'll be getting issue number 14, and we will be getting the Dreadblade Harrows. These are fantastic ghostly horses. They're sort of emerging from the ground, these spirit horses with horrible riders with massive rusted blades. I really love these miniatures and I can't wait to get my hands on them. And then in issue number 15 we get to complete our Sigmarite Mausoleum. So we're getting a statue part and some fence parts and wall parts. And yeah, it's great to be getting this much terrain early on, in my opinion, because I love terrain. I said it all the way through the Conquest videos. Whenever we got a bit of terrain, I seemed to perk up a bit and got dead excited. It's not that I don't like the miniatures as well, I really do, but the terrain, really, I just like setting out a battlefield and looking at it and just being like, ooh, who could see him there? And just working it out for myself. But I'm a bit of a geek like that, like I'm sure some of you are, but maybe not as happy to admit it as me. Anyway, yeah, that's all I've got for you this week, guys. Don't forget to check out the link in the description below to my Patreon. If you're interested in other videos, I've got some battle report or tutorial missions from the Conquest series going up on Sunday mornings at the moment, and also on Tuesdays at the moment I've got some Orc videos coming for you on a weekly basis, hopefully, as long as I maintain it. So definitely check those out. Thanks so much for watching, guys, and I'll see you on the battlefield.